Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the 2024 October East Brighton Community Forum. We've been doing these East and West Side Community Forums for many, many years now. We want to make sure that we get out. Town Hall is a central location, but we want to make sure we're out in East Brighton and West Brighton talking to residents, listening to the unique questions and issues that our neighborhoods all over town have. So we're glad to have you here tonight, and we're glad to be here tonight. I'm going to very quickly introduce town staff that is in the room, and then we're going to pivot to one of those staff members, Janine Whitaker, our assistant assessor, who's going to be doing a brief presentation, including a video on property tax assessment, specifically in the context of the upcoming reassessment of the town of Brighton that we will be doing. We really already started, but you'll be seeing next year. Then if you have questions for Janine, she'll be able to answer those. And then I know you've all been at this in the past. We'll have our open house where you can talk with any of our staff people that I'll be introducing in a moment. And then we'll close with Q&A for the board. So, but let me introduce those staff people. Right behind you here by the fireplace, Matt Beeman, our park superintendent. Next to Matt is Becky Cotter, our recreation director. At the next table, Miriam Moore. Miriam is our chief diversity officer. And next to Miriam is Brighton Police Department Captain Jose Caraballo. We're happy to be here to answer the questions you may have. We may say a little more at the end, but I'm going to turn it right over to Janine.
All right, so we are doing the 2025 reval this year, and I know that sounds scary to most people, but it is a project that the goal is to establish a uniform, fair, equitable assessment for everybody across the town. It doesn't necessarily raise taxes. As a matter of fact, some people's taxes will probably go down. Some people's will stay the same, and others will go up. But we're going to watch this little video that does a good job describing, and then we'll talk about the process of grievance.
Hi, I'm Patrick from the New York State Tax Department, and in this video, I'm going to give you an overview of property taxes, what they're for, how they're collected, and how to make sure your assessment is fair and accurate. In New York, school districts and local governments use property taxes to fund public education and to pay for services like police and fire departments. The amount of your property tax bill is based on the total value of real property you own. Real property, or real estate, is generally defined as land and any permanent structures attached to it. This can include houses, gas stations, office buildings, and vacant land, as well as farms, apartments, and in most cases, mobile homes. The total value of your real property is determined by a local official called an assessor, and the determination he or she makes is called an assessment. Assessors are typically employed by towns, cities, villages, or counties. To ensure that all properties are assessed fairly, your assessor should conduct reassessments on a cyclical basis. Reassessments are the best way to ensure that all property owners pay only their fair share of property taxes. For homeowners, your assessor should base your assessment on the current market value of your property. He or she can determine the market value by looking at recent sale prices for similar properties in your community. Once your assessor determines your property's market value, he or she will calculate your total assessment by multiplying the market value of your property by the local level of assessment. If your city or town was recently reassessed, the level of assessment will still be close to 100% of market value. However, if it's been some time since the last reassessment, it's likely that the level of assessment will be less than 100%. The longer it has been, the lower the level of assessment will be, and the more likely that your assessment is no longer accurate. If your community assesses at 100% of market value, the total assessed value of your property should be roughly equal to its market value. If assessments are not at a market value, you can use the market value listed on the assessment roll as a starting point to determine if you've been assessed fairly. The assessment roll is a listing of all assessments in your community, and in most communities, this listing is first made public in the beginning of May. We encourage you to check the assessment roll each year to ensure that you're assessed fairly and are receiving any exemptions for which you're eligible. If you feel your assessment is inaccurate, you have the right to contest it. Our website provides more information on this process, including an informational video called "Is My Assessment Fair?" Keep in mind that a change in your property assessment doesn't mean you'll see a change in your tax bill. Your actual tax bill only changes when bigger local budgets are adopted, other revenue sources shrink, the total of your assessed property in a municipality changes, or the tax levy apportioned to the different municipalities changes. So, how does your assessment translate to the amount of taxes you pay? First, taxing jurisdictions, school districts, municipalities, counties, and others have to determine the amount of revenue that needs to be raised to fund public services. They determine their budgets, the total projected expenses for the year, and then subtract all revenues from sources other than the property tax. The result is the levy, the total amount of property taxes to be collected. The tax levy is then divided by the total assessed value of the jurisdiction to arrive at the tax rate. Ultimately, your assessment will be multiplied by the tax rate to arrive at the property taxes you owe. For more information on property taxes, watch our other informational videos or visit our website at www.tax.ny.gov.
So, and we'll have these videos up on our page, at the town page, so you can go there to access them, tell your friends about them. So as you can see, this is our average sales. In 2018, we're at 253,502. They did a little decrease in 19, and then 20, they just started continually rising. We're almost 150,000 over the average price that we were in 2018 in our value of our homes.
These are residential properties?
These are residential, yeah. Yep. We're not really talking about commercial tonight. And then just to see where we're at so far from July 1st of 2024 to now, so in only 4 months, we're at 446 out of 94 sales that we've had. So we just keep increasing, and if we can't keep up with that increase, our equalization rate continues to drop. So what a reval is trying to do is to get your house up to 100% of the market value. And the market value is the most probable sale price in a competitive and open market between a willing and knowledgeable buyer and seller, made without duress on either side. So it's listed on the open market. It's just two people that don't know each other. It's not an estate or a foreclosure. It's a real actual sale to show you what a house will sell for. And that's what we use as comps, the houses that sell on the open market. How do we determine your market value? Like I just said, we look at comparable sales that have happened close to you, within your neighborhood, the style of home, the size, the age. We try and come up with the closest comparables to your house to predict what it would sell for if it was to be listed today. We will have these comps available at our office. If you can call and request us to email you a copy, or you can come in and pick them up, and we'll show you the 5 comps that we're using. And we'll talk a little bit about, if you come to grieve, how you should develop your argument. So kind of the first step in the assessment process is going to be the notification letters. They're called impact notices or disclosure notices, and they're hopefully going to be sent out in early March. And this will tell you your 2024 assessed value, your 2025 assessed value, and the difference between the two. And then if you look a little bit lower, it'll tell you your impact. It's an estimate, but it'll tell you if your taxes will go up or down based on this year's tax rates, because we don't know next year's. And it'll be based on this year's levy, because we don't know next year's budgets. So it's an estimate, but it's to give you an idea of how you're going to be impacted. So here's the timeline. So the preliminary notices are the ones I just talked about. And then, at that point, once you get those, you have the opportunity to schedule an informal grievance kind of hearing. That's just could be a phone call, it could be a meeting, but they have to be scheduled. They'll be, 5 to 10 minutes, and you do have to present an argument of why you think your house won't sell for what it is assessed at. And to do that, you could bring comps that were on the open market. We call those valid comps. You could bring pictures if you have deferred maintenance in your house, and you want us to see, things that need to be fixed. We can take that into consideration. Or you could get an appraisal. So, and that's for each step. That's for the formal grievance and for SCAR. Like, you need to bring an argument that's gonna try and show us that we're wrong, and we have been, we can be, so, and we're open to digging deeper, because we can't go into 12,000 houses.
Janine, if you could you used the acronym SCAR, could you?
Oh, I'm sorry.
What?
SCAR is the Small Claims Assessment Review, which is the third step in the process. We have the informal. If you don't like the answer you get from your informal, you can go to formal grievance, which starts on May 1st, and you can start turning in your paperwork, your applications, and then on the fourth Tuesday in May, which this year happens to be May 27th, through 8 p.m., you can turn in this paperwork. On that day, grievance day, we start hearing cases all day. And that goes on until they're all heard. So it could be a month, it could be 2 months until we get through them all. And then on July 1st, we publish the final roll. So on May 1st, we publish the tentative one. If you don't like your assessed value, then you go to formal grievance. On July 1st, we publish the final roll. And if you still don't agree with your assessed value, and you've gone through the formal grievance process, you then can go to the Small Claims Assessment Review, which is, you apply through the county for that one, and that's presenting your case in front of a hearing officer. So it's just, the Board of Assessment Review is a panel of 3 to 5 people of your peers, people who live in town, people who have training and sitting on this board, and who have some kind of knowledge of real estate, other real estate agents, attorneys, appraisers. And after SCAR, that's the end of the road. So if you're not happy with your decision, you got to grieve again next year.
But you get 3 opportunities.
Right, yeah.
To have your value reviewed.
I just have one question. In the grievance process, is it ever possible that at the end of that, you would end up with a higher proposed assessment?
No,
In other words, there would not ever be that risk?
no. And you can't end up with lower than what you asked for, so,
Okay, so you have those parameters?
yeah.
Do you take account about how long you own the house, considering that the percentages that's gone from 2019 to now is astronomical? You take into account, is there a way that you can the payments that are going up, is there any way you can maybe stair step them or something? Because the percentages are going to be astronomical.
Well,
for people who own their houses.
I'm going to give you an example from Arundecoit, from their reval in 2023. The average assessed value went up 45%. So there were houses that went up 100%, there were houses that went up 20%. The average was 45, and those people didn't see much of a change in their taxes. So there's nothing we can do about the levy. We don't make the budget. All we're trying to do is to get people fairly assessed.
So
So
you don't take into account that the buyer that has had the house for 25 years to the buyer that has just bought the house last year.
well, the buyer that just bought the house last year kind of created their market value, so they will go close to what they paid for it.
But in each case, Steve, the target is the fair market value, regardless of, and based on that, the taxes are assessed, and as Janine said, the goal is equity so that everybody is paying their fair share. The fact that you've owned it for a long time may or may not mean you're below the assessed valuation, below its fair market value now, but when the process is done, whether you've been in it for a year or 10 years, the goal is that you're at fair value so that everybody is paying their fair share. And the fact that your assessed value, as Janine said, goes up 50%, absolutely does not mean your taxes will go up 50%. So,
That's what I would be worried about.
yeah.
That's what people's fear is. They don't quite understand how it works, so they think, oh my gosh. Some people don't even look at the impact notice, and they look at, oh, it went up 100,000, and they don't look at the, oh, my taxes went down $400. So, yeah, I know it's a lot of people just don't understand it. It gets scary. So, like we talked about, the evidence, bring sales of similar properties that support your value, that you think your house should be at, an appraisal, and then, like we talked about, the pictures. I went to a house the other day that walls are all torn down. If I was to just judge it based on what they bought it for on the MLS, I would think it's a cute little average house. There's missing floors, there's a lot of issues with it, so it has to go down to a different condition than what we would have it as currently. And then here's just some resources. I'm hoping to get the town page, the assessor's page with videos that will be informational, pamphlets. I put some pamphlets over there on the table. There's a copy of this presentation. You can always call the assessor's office and ask questions. And wait for your impact notice. And if you think that what we're putting your house at that you could put on the market today and sell for, and we all are pretty aware of how the market is. It's continued to rise, like I showed you, for the last 6 years. If you believe that you could sell it for that, then that's probably what your assessed value should be, your fair market value. But if not, then you have, like you said, 3 chances to come and try and get it changed.
Thanks, Janine. Are there any questions for Janine? Oh, no, Sherry, you only said one question.
I don't.
Go ahead.
I know. I'm just curious, do you all look at sites like Zillow or anything like that? You don't, do you? You do? Oh.
Well, the MLS we look at. Occasionally I have to look at Zillow if they're not listed on the open market just to see if there's updates. I look at Airbnb. I look everywhere I can. We have a GIS mapping system where I can look at from above, and I can see decks and pools and additions. So yeah,
I mean, I don't know how they make their determinations. Obviously, that's a national organization, right?
No, we do not look at Zestimates.
Oh, well, that's what I meant.
I thought you meant just look at it.
If you pulled up Zillow and said they valued this house at $350,000.
Absolutely not.
You're not going to factor, you're going to do your own independent.
I would just
factors.
look at Zillow for pictures. I don't.
Not for value.
No,
That's
absolutely.
very reassuring.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I mean, I don't know. It may be very accurate. It kind of is.
It's probably hit or
a cheat
miss.
in a way.
Yes.
Have all the towns done a reassessment? Yeah, but will they have by the time we do?
I don't know. Arundecoit did last year. I mean, they're in pockets. Henrietta's
A
doing
number have,
one.
but a number have not.
And if the school and the town taxes are based upon Brighton values, of course, because it's a Brighton service,
Well,
although we've got different schools.
We have 5 different school districts, so they're all going to be
But
different.
if another town hasn't done a reassessment, and their property values are low, and ours are high in assessed value, how is the adjustment made in the tax rate?
I don't know if I,
Do we use the equalization
the
value?
equalization rate does,
That is so.
Equalization.
Yes, and actually, Chris, that's one of the reasons it's
I was
important
just going to say that.
to do the reassessment, because there are parts of 5 different school districts serving the town of Brighton. And the jurisdictions that have lower equalization rates, and right now our equalization rate is 65%, which means that the average assessed value is 65% of its fair market value, which is why I can very confidently say that you're going to see increases in the assessed valuation. What I'm also confident in saying is that you'll see a reduction in the tax rate, because the assessed value goes up, the rate goes down, because you're still raising about the same amount of revenue. But that low equalization rate does hurt us in multi-town school districts. The other place it hurts us, a lot of our residents are eligible for exemptions, like a veteran's exemption, which are based on a percentage of your assessed valuation. Right now, your assessed valuation is 35% on average below the fair market value. So if your assessed value after reval goes up to its fair market value, which it will, the value of that exemption goes up. If you're getting 10% of your assessed valuation, it's larger when your assessed valuation reflects your actual fair market value.
And Bill, those of us here tonight, we're in the Penfield School District.
Right.
So we have that issue
Yes,
all
you
the
do.
time.
Yes, you
On
do.
the equalization rate.
Yep,
Which,
yep.
very complicated.
Well, why don't we go back up, just so I don't mean to cut off questions about the revaluation, but really just for the sake of the audience, for the TV. Does anybody have any more questions for Janine? And we will, in just a moment, be going into that open house format where you'll have the opportunity. The reason we have our senior staff with us tonight is so that you can ask them questions, the police department, Miriam, our chief diversity officer, about the work we're doing, about the events we've held and that we will be doing going forward. But are there any more questions? Thank you, Janine, for that presentation. I know you put a lot of time into getting that put together.
We have a
Any-
question in the back.
I just have one, oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Why now?
Why now?
Why now?
Because their equalization rate is 65. We went from 100 to, I
The
don't know if I'll
the
be able to
more
see.
the value deviates from fair market value, the more important it is to revalue. And as you heard the person on the video say, it's important to periodically revalue. For us, it's been, what was it, 2018 was the last one? So it's been 6 years. Honestly, that's a shorter period of time than we have usually done, but prices have gone up so dramatically. And the other, different neighborhoods go up, different school districts go up at different rates. Commercial properties and residential properties go up at different rates. So it's really important to periodically recalibrate. Okay, then we will, we'll spend, 10 minutes or so. If we need longer, we'll take longer. But take the opportunity to speak with any of our town staff or with us. And then we'll come back. I know I have a couple things I want to update the community on. I know Robin has a couple of events coming up that we want to update the community on. But we'll take 10 minutes or so speaking with any of us, and then we'll reconvene. As I mentioned, there's a couple things I want to talk about. I know Robin has a couple things she wants to talk about, but let me start. Lots of people think of this time of year as fall. We think of this time of year as budget season. We have been working on the town budget really since spring. Our process is transparent. Our goal is public participation at every level of the process. We start with budget workshops, again, open to the public, where every department head presents their proposed departmental budget to the town board and to the community. We develop a capital improvement plan. The state comptroller recommends that municipalities have a capital improvement plan. There's no requirement to do that. But what we do every year is plan out our capital spending and other large expenditures over a 3-year period to give us a roadmap to see where we're going and to be able to evaluate things like large equipment, software, infrastructure. Those are the kind of things that are significant expenditures but can also have a major impact on quality of life. So as we put together that capital improvement plan for each of the 3 years, again, publicly before the town board, before our finance committee, before our budget review task force, and then we use the first year of that plan as the starting building block for our budget for the year. Each of the departments, again, has laid out their operating costs as they see them. One of the things that's really notable is how we're a service business. People, local government is all about people. 50%, almost exactly, of the expenditures in the town budget are wages and salaries. Almost exactly 25% are benefits. So we start with 75% of the budget that is people. And we believe that we have gotten a great team of people here at the town of Brighton. But to do that, we have those expenditures. And some of them are really mandated. For example, we have union contracts. The state retirement system, all of our employees are a part of the state retirement system. And it's this year those benefit items that have been particularly, we hear about inflation going down overall, the consumer price index, and it has. But if you had the municipal price index, unfortunately, what you would see, and we've been working, we're a part of a health insurance consortium with other municipalities, mostly in Monroe and Ontario County. But our employee health insurance premiums next year will go up 14.9%. Employee health premiums. Our mandatory New York State retirement system contributions will be going up over 12%. And as scary with the season as those numbers are, they pale in comparison to the cost of retiree over 65 health insurance, which is going up as much as over doubling, over 100% increase. So we are looking at cost-driven and essentially mandatory expenses for employee benefits. So we do what we can, we work as hard as we can to find ways to offset some of those costs. But right now, we're in a cycle where benefit costs have really outpaced inflation. So that's the biggest challenge we're facing. We've held our first budget hearing 2 weeks ago. We will hold our second public hearing. State law only requires one. We always do two. We always do it before November. So people have a right to know what their local government is doing before Election Day, whether it's a year we're holding local elections or not. So we'll be holding that second public hearing, and I anticipate taking action on the budget tomorrow night. Another big thing that's on everybody's mind in Town Hall right now, the main core of Town Hall is 71 years old. The HVAC system in Town Hall is basically 71 years old. There's been maintenance, of course, but we're really working from the same equipment that was put in there in the 50s. It's not working so well right now. And we are long overdue. We did a study, we had a consultant come in and take a look. And based on that consultant, and really based on some long, hard thought by all of us at the table, we reached the conclusion that, consistent with all of our sustainability efforts, we are going to do a geothermal retrofit to Town Hall. We are going to make the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system in Town Hall geothermal based, which is dramatically an improvement in terms of the sustainability of the system. That change is driving a major renovation to the core of Town Hall. We're going to put in accessibility improvements. We're going to put ramps in the front of the building. Until, today, the only accessible entrance to Town Hall is in the back of the building, and you enter in a back door and go up an elevator. Honestly, that's always smacked of back of the bus. To me, now people, regardless of their abilities, will be able to come in the front door. Technology, security. We're going to have a small addition on the rear of the building for our maintenance and facilities people. We're going to, when all of that interior work is done, and I'll get back to a big piece of that interior work in a moment, we're also going to work on the drainage of the parking lot area. We're going to slightly reconfigure, and really very slightly reconfigure the parking lot, add just a few more parking spaces, and repave the entire parking lot. It needs it. And one of the reasons it needs it so badly is because of the drainage issues out there. So the big, and I said I would go back to the interior of the building, buildings built in the 50s were full of what? Asbestos. Whether it's wrapping used as insulation, wrapping vents, tiles, ceiling tiles, floor tiles. My jaw hit the floor when we were talking about whether we could rebuild the windows. And our architect very nonchalantly said, well, the windows are hot too. Mm-hmm. So what do you mean? The glazing in windows of that vintage had asbestos in them. So because of the magnitude of the project and the magnitude of the asbestos abatement, we anticipate that the main core of Town Hall, that we are going to be out of that building for about 18 months, starting November 15th. We will be moving during that time to the SUNY Empire State University campus on Westfall Road. We will be on the second floor over there. Town board meetings will be there, the town clerk will be there, my office, everything in that core of Town Hall will move. What will not move? The library will stay where it is. The police department will stay where it is. The court will stay where it is. But everything in that front building that you walk up those steps to, we will be moving over to Empire State in 2 stages, finishing on November 15th. So that's going to be a big project, and we've been working on it for a while, and we're confident that it'll be a good location for everybody to work from. Other thing, Sherry and I were just talking about pool. A lot of people didn't know that Town Hall has a pool. It has a very small pool, but it's got basically a backyard recreational pool in the backyard. That too is really showing its age. It's 36 years old. And we had heard from a lot of people, a lot of communities now have splash pads. We had heard from a lot of people that they were interested in splash pads, so we were looking at, instead of spending a lot of money rehabilitating that old pool, maybe putting in a splash pad instead. Honestly, we heard from the community loud and clear. That's the beauty of local government. You can, you run into us at the grocery store, you run into us on the Brickyard Trail or wherever, and we're gonna listen. And I think it's fair to say that we listened. We heard from a lot of people, including people that have never used that pool, but felt for some good reasons that it was important. We reached out, and we've got 2 great partners in Albany, in Senator Jeremy Cooney and Assemblymember Sarah Clark. And I reached out to the 2 of them. And between them, we have $1.2 million in grant money. With that money, we are not only going to rehabilitate the pool, we are going to install a new splash pad, and we are going to we've been renovating all of our playgrounds. And that playground is over 25 years old. So we're going to be putting in a new and accessible playground, all behind Town Hall. So I'm really appreciative of Senator Cooney and Assemblymember Clark for the financial support to make all of that possible. And if you've ever been back there, you'll also see that we have a very, very decrepit looking pavilion. And I'm very pleased that we will be replacing that pavilion with a new pavilion. That thanks in part to a very generous Rochester family, Dr. Mahendra and Jyoti Nanavati, who donated the pavilion in Buckland Park, next to the playground by the parking lot there, and they're going to help with this new pavilion. So again, it's an 18-month, if not longer, project. We don't have bids on any of the recreational stuff. We are out for bids for the contractors on the town hall work itself. So we got a lot of work to do, but we're really excited, and I think when all of this is done, the town hall campus is really going to be a magnet, and of course the library has always been a magnet for families. We're going to really be the place to be in this community with all of those different opportunities. So that's what I wanted to talk about. I'll turn it over to Robin, who has some announcements on upcoming
community events.
Community events.
Yeah. So the fall is always very active in the town of Brighton in terms of our community events. Our Halloween trunk or treat was this past weekend. We had over 400 kids out, and so that was
Yay,
thank you, Becky.
Yay, Brighton Memorial Library.
Yeah. So that was a bevy of activity, but by contrast, this coming Friday at our town hall offices on the main floor, we will have sensory-friendly trick-or-treating. And that will be on Friday, October 25th from 4 to 5 p.m. So for those of us who don't do well in the crowds, may appreciate a little different pace, this is a time for you. But we do ask that you register for this event because we are sensitive to the number of participants. So if you go to our Town of Brighton Recreation website, you can register for some sensory-friendly trick-or-treating this Friday, October 25th from 4 to 5 p.m. And then on Saturday, we have our Drug Enforcement Agency semi-annual pharmaceutical take-back event in the Public Safety Wing with our wonderful Brighton Police Department serving the community in offering this event. That will be on Saturday, October 26th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then the ever popular semi-annual electronics recycling and secure document shredding event will be at the Brighton Highway Department, 1941 Elmwood Avenue on Sunday, October 27th from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. So look for us at those events. I just wanted to highlight that.
And please, on the shredding,
Yes.
I want a reminder, this is personal
Yes.
shredding. We don't have unlimited capacity. So please,
Yeah.
Your home shredding, your old tax returns, whatever it might be, but they are shredded on site. The truck is right there, but we only have so much capacity.
Yes. Thank you so much for that reminder, Bill. We do have limited capacity, and it is just our little volunteer muscles trying to. So we appreciate if you limit that to your residential needs as opposed to any of the professional or needs that you might have. Most of our professional organizations offer shredding events for that kind of material.
Thanks, Robin. Christine, anything?
Nothing of note this evening.
All right. Nate?
Billy, you did a great job covering the budget again. I was just going to
Yes.
invite people to come join us for tomorrow night's second budget hearing.
Chris?
I'm good, Bill, thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for us?
When you mentioned geothermal?
Yes.
Does that mean like solar panels, or what does it mean?
Well, actually, it's a great
Good
question.
question.
Because we are going to be, and we have already begun on some of our other facilities installing solar panels. In fact, we have our first net zero, meaning literally when you net out the energy that the building generates versus what it uses, it either uses none or puts energy back into the system. The lodge at the town park on Westfall Road. No, geothermal is a system, and I am not a geologist, but it's a system where you drill wells. There will be about 15 wells drilled on the campus, sort of behind town hall, some in the parking lot, some in the lawn area. And you take advantage of temperature differences. And through that system, both heating and cooling are done through these temperature differences generated through the difference in temperature as you go deep into the earth. So it is a very low energy consumption type of system. It does involve some energy because you're bringing up, there's some air transfer, but it's a relatively new, and in particular, you're seeing more of it in commercial facilities. For example, the old Hickey Freeman factory, if anybody ever went there, Avenue D and North Clinton Avenue, is sad to say no longer making the best suits in the world, but it is being converted into a mixed-use facility and one that is heated and cooled through geothermal. So we're going to be seeing more and more of that. We're ahead of the curve.
Is that like the residential heat pump concept?
Yeah, it is.
Mhm.
Yep,
Okay.
it's exactly,
Wow. So it both heats and cools?
yep.
Wow, that is cutting edge.
We have to
I've
work
been in
on
homes that have
rebrand.
it, and actually it does seem to, I guess unless you have a humid climate, I don't know, there's something about it, or restrictions.
Yeah, it's, you wouldn't, it may not have enough capacity if we were in Death Valley. Right. But I think with the temperature range that we get here, our consultants felt that it was a good option. I'll be frank, it's more expensive up front. Operational costs, including maintenance costs, because there are, so many fewer moving parts in a geothermal
Yeah.
But
system.
the fewer moving parts, the better. I mean,
Right.
It's kind of like the more bells and whistles, the more. And on the move, will there be designated parking for people coming? I know they're always telling us where to park and restricting parking to see you out in.
That's my
Empire.
understanding, that we will be doing. The Empire has a wonderful, large parking
Yeah,
field.
it does. But they
And,
are particular about who can park where.
yeah,
We're finding that out with early voting.
yes.
already.
And that's one of the things, as we timed this move, we looked at the different tax collection seasons. That's after the school tax collection is finished. The actual operational move will take place after voting. I mean, Empire State College and Town Hall have been and will continue to be polling places. And of course, Empire State is an early voting polling place. And then January 1st starts the town and county tax collection cycle. So we really looked at the calendar mid-November. We wanted to get it done before the holidays.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, we're working with a relocation consultant that has worked with many, many commercial moves in the Rochester area. So more to follow. Well, there may be some lost sleep between now and then, but I'm very confident with the help of that organization and others, and kudos to our staff who have been working very hard to make it all possible.
Good work, all of you.
Any other questions? Well, thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate it. We'll be back again, and tell your friends and neighbors. And thank you for being here. Thank you, staff, for being here.